Okay, this is Steve from Drift America RC, and we are working on the Sanwa complete setup, and we've moved through a few things already. So we have soldered the ESC, we've downloaded files to the multi-setting gear, we've programmed the servo, and we've programmed the gyro. So the next step is to program the ESC, and that's what we are on right now. So in a perfect world, your program box should already be set up to work with your ESC, but it's not always perfect like that. So what I want to do, actually, in the manual, it talked about specifically when it doesn't match. So it says right here, to use the program box, the firmware of Super Vortex Gen 2 must be the latest one. Update the ESC prior to use. So you see this error, version not the same, please update. That's something you might run into. If you don't, great, but if you do, I'm going to show you how to make that get fixed real quick, or how to fix that. After the left message, the right screen indicate. Their English is a little jumbled on some of this, so I have mine set up actually already. Just connect this up, and this is mine. It's got the anime on it. This is the new one, and I believe this one's already set up and ready to go. Let me just double check that I'm not getting that error on this one. So let's see. ESC connect, hit enter. ESC read. It's saying SVD2, and it's letting me go through the menu just fine. So, but what if you don't have that? Then you need to take your card and you need to visit the Sanwa website again. And we can go do that real quick, and I can show exactly what file you need. So I'm gonna put my card in here. Sorry for the messy desk. And we have, so it already has the file on here. That's the one. Well, I don't know. Today's January 3rd, 2022. So as of January 3rd, 2022, that's the correct one. But if you want to double check what the correct one is, we can delete this. Delete the file. You need a .pro file. So we're going to go to the sanwadenshi.com website, and we're going to go to electronic speed controls, and we're going to go down to actually the Gen 2 program box, which is what you should have. Now it says firmware for Gen 2, the older version, and then it says Gen 2 Pro, which is the newer version of the last version, or I guess the second newer version. This is the one that we want, the SVD2 firmware PBox 8001, and we're going to download that and open it, and it's going to try to sell us some stuff, and we're not going to get it unless you really want to. You can open it without it, but so we're going to drag this file directly onto the removable disk. And if you would like to dedicate this disk for for your Gen 2 speed control, then I recommend doing so. Just write it on it somewhere. I was trying to show you how I have mine written on it. Well, I guess, yeah, it looks like what I wrote on it rubbed off already anyway, so it don't matter. Prop my camera, flip it over. Sorry for having to do this. It just makes life easier for me. Okie doke. Alright, so now what you do, you're going to turn off the power of the card. This is assuming that you got the message that I showed you before. Version not same, please update. This is for the card, by the way, not for the ESC. We're updating the card to be the same version as the ESC. If you'd like to update the ESC, see it says program update, push enter key. So we're going to push enter key and it's going to update complete, remove PGM file. So now we can turn it off, remove the PGM file, and now it'll give us the message. ESC connect OK, ESC read, and we're connected. But now we want to update the speed control, right? So we can go back to the website and get the speed control update. And again, if you have multiple cards, which I recommended doing at the beginning, which I haven't gotten mine in the mail yet, but they should be here. So I'm going to take my card out and then put it back in so it reads the new information. Otherwise it won't, just from switching that. So here I have P-Box Pro. I'm going to delete that. You don't want more than one program file on the disk. And we're going to close that garbage. And right here we're going to go boom. And now we're going to go to the actual speed control. And if you scroll down, there's the P-Box Gen 2 firmware. That's not what we need though. Firmware for SVD2. Gotta read a little bit sometimes. Okay. You just need the firmware update. In case of writing Super Vortex Gen 2 Pro firmware, okay, so it says if you accidentally write the, okay, so there's three versions. There's the Gen 2, Gen 2 Pro, and then the SVD2. The SVD2 is the newer one, the Super Vortex Drift Type 2, or Drift Type version 2, whatever. So if you accidentally wrote the Gen 2 Pro firmware to the SVD2, the SVD2 will work as a Super Vortex Gen 2 Pro. If that's the case, if you wrote the wrong firmware, please rewrite the SVD2 firmware, which is this. Now this, I believe, is the okay, so we're going to show in folder. It's going to be in my downloads folder, I know already, but so we can just right click on this, and actually I already had downloads open. Yeah, boom. So P-Box D2104100, we're going to drag and drop it to removable disk D. 2104100, right? Let's double check that I grabbed the right file. 2104100. Now that's the correct firmware, which already should be installed on the SVD2, but we're going to go ahead and update that just to catch it on video in case anybody has the same problem. Maybe in the future, you might need to update the firmware if you buy something that's been sitting on the shelf for a while, in which case, you know, it's a good idea to check the firmware for your existing equipment once in a while anyway. So we're gonna put this in here, and then we're going to go all the way back. We're going to scroll down past data menu, past code assign to update. We are going to update to the 21041. We're currently updating the ESC to the most current firmware that's available on the internet from the Sanwa Denshi site. Fingers crossed. I'm not gonna lie, sometimes this stuff doesn't work out the way you want it to. But as long as you read carefully and try to be a little forgiving for the loss of communication and translation, then usually works out. So now we can move on to the good stuff, the data menu. Now my dumbass doesn't have the instruction manual for the SVD2 in front of me, so give me 2 seconds to pause my camera. Okay, I have the box with the manual in it, but there's another fun way to do it. I figured I would show everyone because it took me a second to find the box. And you can actually go to the Sanwa Denshi website, and then we can go to electronic speed controls, and then we can go to the SVD2, and then we can go all the way to the bottom where the online manual is, and it shows everything you need here, and we can click print, which I've already done. And there you go, full manual at your fingertips. Speaking of fingertips, dropping my phone. Alright, so now we have a nice, this one's all folded up tiny, so we'll leave that one alone. Turn my camera. Come on, camera flip. There we go. No, this is what. Right, no. Confusing myself. Okay. There we go. Ah. Jeez. Okay. All settled. Yes. Okay. So here we go. This one might be actually smaller. Let's see. We'll end up using this one anyway. This one looks smaller. Okay, this might be more legible. So we're going to the programming mode. And hopefully, I'm going to try to hold it somewhere we can see it well. We're going to go to the data menu. And you can read the ESC if you'd like. Connect, yes. Just don't forget, after you make your changes, hit write ESC. That's so important. Okay, so we're going to scroll down, see what settings we have here. Now, some of the settings, the way they're numbered, don't match. They've always done this. There's 2 versions of the settings. There's the code 10 versions. These are, when you're using code 10, it breaks the settings down into 10 settings, the 10 most important settings. But when you're in the box, you've got 14 settings. And beyond that, sometimes, you know, it'll say like you know, 2K through 22K, but maybe the value is actually 20 through 200. I don't know. Just sometimes the values don't match, but the range should be the same. Don't get too discouraged about that. Optimally, this should be your setting menu, the SSL setting. So actually I can put these two side by side. The SSL code 10 setting should be your optimal setting off of the radio. And we're going to do that in the next small segment, hopefully. So we'll start with this one though. And mode 1 is battery cutoff. Well, obviously that's not mode 1. This says temperature and temperature FET. Honestly, not even sure. That temperature CPU. I'm not sure what these are even. So you know, listen. I don't claim to know everything, and some of this stuff I really don't understand, to be honest. But hopefully, I understand it more than you, and this will help you seeing me go through it and getting a little lost on some things and figuring them out. By the way, the Sanwa Airtronics owners group on Facebook, Sanwa Airtronics group, I think it's owners group on Facebook, is an excellent resource. And if you don't want to ask the same question people have already asked a million times, you can search the group for the question that you've got and find a good answer. So now we're on the battery cutoff, 9.9 volts. I wouldn't mess with that. Cut BT. See here real quick, because I do believe they have a little more detail. I mean, none of this stuff is on this code 10. This isn't, you know, this is more problem avoidance stuff, which is good to have, but yeah. I'm not sure what cut BT means. Okay, this is the important stuff. So we're at, it says mode 2 back operation. M1. Oh, this is, oh, duh, cut battery. So what was this one? Battery minimum. I don't know. I guess that's the same thing. MO1, mode 1 cut battery. Jeez. Okay. Back. Okay, so we're gonna turn the back operation on. So what you do is you enter and push this up to on. I can already hear it. All the comments. You're an idiot. It's fine. I'm trying. Okay, so heat protect. We're gonna put that on 120/80. That's the default setting. All these obviously are the default settings. But I'm gonna circle as we go through what I'm changing to. Change that to that. We'll leave this at this. Let's see, yeah. So battery cut, Bluetooth backup on, Bluetooth. There again. Okay, heat M3, heat protect, boost off. I'm gonna turn this on now. It's my understanding that you can't have turbo if your boost is not on. It says it right here. In case only setting number 2 10, 11, 12, and 13 will work. So 10 is boost rate, 11 is turbo, 12 is boost start, 13 is boost acceleration. So if you can only get 10, 11, and 13 to work if you set mode 4 to number 2, turn on boost. Gimmick. Oh wow, there's a rev limiter? Ooh, that's new. Okay, if you set to number 3, code 1 auxiliary rev limiter and active throttle will work. Well, that's kind of cool because we haven't seen the rev limiter since the old Super Vortex Type D. It's very interesting. So code 10, and I remember you could only use the rev limiter with code 10. Throttle punch. Where does it say rev limiter? Hold on. This is new stuff now. Code auxiliary 1 rev limiter and active throttle. Ooh, there's active throttle. Okay. Oh, there's rev limiter. Boom. Mode 11 turbo. So you can either have a turbo or a rev limiter. Very interesting. We're gonna set up the turbo for now, but that's good to know that in order to use the rev limiter, that's for setting 3, which is gimmick. That's funny they call it gimmick because it is kind of a gimmick. I mean, I guess it sounds cool. Okay, it's like a rev limiter is when you hear, in case you don't know, it's when you hear like in a drift car, you hear it go, it's because it's like limiting how much you can rev your engine, which sounds pretty cool in a drift car, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so if you turn on boost, then you have turbo. Okay. Either way, we're turning boost on. Oh wait, there's only 2 options on here. I guess that's gonna be only on the code 10. So we'll leave the boost on here and we'll set for turbo. And when we go to the code 10, we can adjust the rev limiter. I'm excited for Henry to show up today. Now, Henry is a new guy that's been coming up here, and he picked up an M17 and really got, I think, a pretty good handle on how to get everything set up on it. So I'm actually going to be using his assistance in that video. Mode 5 is Throttle Punch. That's the initial throttle. So we can, let's see. We are on mode 5, Throttle Punch. This is channel ID. This is where I was saying some of these things don't match up. CHID. Well, CHID is not Throttle Punch. Now we're on DO1. So now we're on... Okay, so you see how this just went from MO5 to DO1? So we just went from M4. See, this was M4 boost, and we turned it on. Now on M5 it goes to Throttle Punch, which is actually on this page for code 10 auxiliary 1. But this isn't Throttle Punch, this is Throttle Punch. So now we're on DO1, now we're on the code 10 settings. Welcome to the world of Sanwa. So this is how it is. And then code 2 is neutral brake feel. It says DO2, but that's code. 3 is drive feel. This is neutral brake feel, code 4. So these all match up all the way down to 10, and then we get some extra ones: turbo slope, turbo release, turbo delay. So at this point we can just start with the code 10 instructions and work from here. Throttle punch. It adjusts the punch when motor is started by throttle operation. Higher values increase the strongness of punch. Recommended value for 17.5 stock motor is 60 to 80. So I guess this is how much, honestly I would keep this value low for drifting, because you want low level throttle control. So that means you don't want it to be real punchy. You want to have like some smooth, low level throttle. And when you are holding your drift and you're stable and you feel good about it, go ahead and rev it, like whatever you want to do. That's when your boost will come in. And sometimes you can have a real stable slide and your gyro's doing its thing, and you just hold down that throttle, that turbo, and it'll just push you out further and actually help you to avoid a curb that you're trying to avoid. And you'll get right around it because you have that extra boost, that extra turbo. So we'll leave the throttle punch at 0. Oh, incidentally, we have the recommended settings for drift, and it has the throttle punch at 28 for 10.5. So, well, I guess we could try. I would prefer the low level throttle control over the punch. Some people tend to drive faster, so let's leave it at 0 per my recommendation. That's something you can adjust on the fly with the code 10 settings. So we'll leave throttle punch at 0. Actually, you know what? Let's turn it up to, let's turn it up to 10. Kind of make a compromise. Neutral brake feel. Neutral brake rate. It changes the braking effectiveness as the throttle trigger is returned to neutral. Higher rates increase the braking effectiveness. So, and that's interesting because it tells you to keep it at 0 for the drift recommendations. I guess we can do that. Drive feel. It says 25. Drive feel, I believe, is something that has made my driving a lot better. I think it smooths out your throttle, so when you're going blah, 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 it kind of averages that out a little bit for you. Higher values increase the smoothness of throttle and forward and return to the neutral directions. Yeah, so I think it's kind of like turning down your servo speed when you're trying to turn the wheel right and left. It takes out your jitteriness. I think it does the same thing for your throttle. So I would call that servo speed for your throttle. And it says 25. I put mine at 40. I'm gonna do 40. I think that's important. It's already set to 30. We're gonna put it up to 40. And I think, especially if you're, a newer driver, that's something that will really help you. Now, if you turn it up too high, you're gonna have a feel of loss of control, and you don't want to have no control. You don't want to make it so slow that you can't control it. Take a sip of my talking juice. Okay, so neutral brake feel, drive feel. Now we're on neutral brake feel. Higher values increase the smoothness of the brake function. Well, they recommend 0, so maybe that's something. Higher values increase the smoothness of the neutral brake function. We don't want any neutral brake. Wait a second, neutral brake. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry, let me go back. Neutral brake, that has got to be drag brake. Brake at neutral, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, I misread that. Neutral brake feel is, you definitely want your neutral brake at 0, that's drag brake. And neutral brake feel should be 0 as well. Because for drifting, you want to have, when you let off the throttle, you want it to roll. But when you push the brake, you want 100% brake. Some people say 80 or 90 to not go so hard on your gears or your belt. Which honestly, I've kept mine at 100 and I don't have any problems with my belt. Yeah, you don't want drag brake for sure. Drag brake means when you let off the throttle, it's automatically going to hit the brakes, and that's no bueno. Some people do that. They start doing that when they're new and they get used to it, so they keep doing it. That's not how I set things up, and I think most higher end drivers would tell you the same thing. So I'm gonna go neutral brake feel is 0. Now we're gonna go to boost rate, and this is brake feel 30. Brake feel, higher values increase the smoothness of throttle in the brake and return to neutral directions. So I'm guessing that smooths out your tapping your brakes, which I want immediate response on that. So I'm going to keep my brake feel at 0. They recommend 30. You know, by all means, if you want to go through here and select all their settings and just leave it and go from there, just make sure your punch, your boost is on. Because if your boost is not on, remember, none of that's going to work. And that's going to be mode 4, turn on boost. You want to make sure mode 4 is set to 2, and it defaults to 1. So if you don't have turbo, it's because your boost isn't on. So make sure your boost is on before you can make any of these changes. But I'm talking about each one individually. We're hashing this out, and so neutral brake feel, I don't want to smooth out my brake function. I want to pull my e-brake, and I want those wheels to lock up. So I'm going to leave my brake feel at 0. Boost rate, higher values increase motor performance throughout the entire throttle range. If the value is 0, boost and turbo are invalid, so you have to have some boost. Now, I'm going back to the timing on this one. Remember, I talked about, and maybe I didn't talk about it in this video, but you have overall timing. You have timing on your motor. I don't know if you can see those little tick marks in there. And you have timing on boost, and you have timing on turbo. So I believe this is your boost timing, and this is your turbo timing. They say for off-road, I believe you don't want a total between motor timing, boost timing, and turbo timing. You don't want a total of more than 30. But for drifting, as long as you're drifting on smooth concrete, there's almost no friction, so you can crank that timing up a lot. Really what it's gonna affect is how hot your motor gets and how much stress you put on your motor. So I would say it's safe to say 40 to 50 total timing is safe. I wouldn't go over 60, but either way, when you turn up your timing, your collective timing between those three, just check your motor temperature, make sure you're not stressing it out too much. I've taken my motor off the track after cranking everything up quite a bit and just doing maybe 4 or 5 laps, and that thing was ready to cook an egg. Boost. Let's put the boost. Let's see. Boost rate. we're gonna crank that up to, let's say 10. And then we'll go down to turbo and we'll crank that up to 20. That's pretty conservative. That's total of 30 plus, I believe this doesn't have the timing turned up at all. I'll have to double check that. But that's 30 overall. You could probably go 15 and 25. But I'm gonna leave this just so we have some turbo to hear. Here's exit of the data menu. I'll go back to boost and turbo. Boost slope. Okay, boost slope, I think it's safe to put it 10. That's saying as you pull the trigger, it's going like about 10 degrees. If you have it higher, it's going to go wing, like that's too much. So we'll go back and then boost A. I know what this means, I forget though. Boost acceleration. This is actually a big factor. Cranking this number up makes your car a lot overall faster. I'm gonna put it at 10. I'm curious what this says. Ooh, they have it at 40. Ooh, they have it, what? 50 and 40, that's 90 total. Okay, well, I'm being super conservative then. If you guys wanna go by these, we'll see how my settings come out. Boost acceleration 40. That's interesting. Okay, well, so I have mine brake feel 0, boost rate I think I put it 10, turbo I believe I put it 20, and the rev limiter, badass. Boost starting, boost starting. Let's see that as an option at all. Boost acceleration. So I guess it skips code 8. Oh, boost start. Oh, I was saying boost slope. Gotcha. Okay, so there's only a turbo slope. There's no boost slope. So this is boost starting, which 10 is okay. It'll give you that low level before the boost comes in. So 10 is probably good. Boost acceleration, we kept it 10, even though it says 40. Okay, and boost deadband. I don't like deadband. Deadband means you have to pull your trigger this far before you actually get any response, and you have to push your trigger this far before you get any response. So that's your deadband. I don't like any deadband. I want it to do what I want it to do when I want it to do it, and we're gonna get rid of that deadband. So now we're going on to the these additional 11 and 12, which is forward FBR R. I don't know what the hell that means. Turbo slope. This is what I was talking about earlier, the slope that it revs up. So I'm gonna put this at 20. And turbo release slope, we can put that at 10. Same thing, it goes wee, and then, oh, it's wee, and then, yeah. So 10. Turbo delay, we don't want any delay. So your turbo activates at full throttle. So if you put a delay, it's gonna go like, right now it's gonna go only at full throttle. So now we've got our settings the way we like them, and we're gonna go down to data menu. We're gonna go to write ESC, muy importante. So now the settings are saved to the ESC, and if you'd like, you can go to there's save SD and load SD. Now load sounds like we're going to save it to the SD, but that's actually loading the settings that are on the SD onto the card, and that won't change your ESC until you write them anyway, but we're going to save these settings to the SD. Boom, card save, saved. Now we can go load SD and go to any Sanwa SVD2 speed control, and we can load these settings onto that right away. Boom, boom, loaded. I guess the only next thing to do is to see how this sounds. So I'm going to grab the radio real quick, and we can plug this in and see how that turbo sounds. Okay, so I got actually the customer's. I don't know if he wants me to say his name, honestly. But this is his servo and gyro. Wish it was mine. Jeez, nice setup. I'll get a newer version eventually. I'm still running the old Gen 2. It wasn't old before. So probably good practice to turn things off. I'm going to hook it up to channel 2, but if we're doing the SSL function, we're going to be switching it to SSL. But for this test, assuming you don't have the SSL function on your radio yet, we don't need to use this at all now, actually. It's already programmed. Yeah, we don't need this. Keep this handy. Let's turn on the radio. Alright, let's hear this. Trying to hear the turbo. If you want your turbo to engage, you got to make sure that your throttle endpoints are turned up all the way, which I don't see why they wouldn't be. Throttle, speed. There's the endpoint, yeah. So endpoints are turned all the way up. So I'm not hearing a significant boost. I mean, a significant. I'm not hearing the turbo kicking in quite enough for our purposes. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to turn up these settings just a hair. Man, they have turbo at 40 on this. To me, I would not go that high, but see how your motor can handle it if you do. So we're going to go back into read the ESC. I'm going to scroll on down to try to feel turbo. Let's crank that up to 40, like they say. And leave the boost rate at 50. So we set it to 40. We're going to go back to data menu, and we're going to write ESC. And let's go ahead and save to the SD again. It's going to create a new DAT file. Same name, overwrite, yes. the DAT file is a data file saying, you know, what settings you had on here. So disconnect this, and let's see what kind of turbo that gives us. Oh, that's the turbo. Man, this fan's cool in there. See that little fan turning? This right here. This is the Fleeta drift spec. That sounds nice. Oof. So you see I'm giving it full throttle. Nice, smooth, low level. And oh shit, a curb. There you go. There's still a little bit of a delay. And by the way, that usually ends in oh shit, a curb. Whee! You usually crash into something. It's fun, but you know, it takes some getting used to. Turbo is definitely a nice little feature. So we got our turbo engaged now, and the low level throttle control is there. Everything seems to be set up the way it should be. So successful setup. You guys have some information on how to change things and what to change. Again, these are the drift settings according to Sanwa, and you get these from the Sanwa homepage. Then it's under news. And I guess that concludes this part of the video. I'm glad it turned out well, and thank you guys for watching. And the next part will be set up code 10 on the radio. So we'll get to that here in a little bit. Thank you guys for watching.